buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, across the world on the interwebs and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show, and I welcome you to this Monday, Fun Day Monday. We put the fun in Monday. You'll notice that there is no fun in Monday, but that's okay. We're going to try. We're going to attempt it today, and we appreciate you guys coming out and joining us. It is just a beautiful, beautiful, windy day. Holy cow, the wind, the house this morning just creaking and doors. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. One of the doors in the house slammed. And it's the air that was moving around just sucked the door right. It was crazy. It's crazy stuff. But that's okay, you know. Now, if we go off the air, it may be because the wind knocked something down. But just FYI, if that happens, you know what's going on. Welcome to the program today. We have got some stuff lined up for you today. Coming up in hour 2 on the broadcast, we're going to be talking with Senator Roger Holland, who's going to be coming on board and giving us kind of a recap of what has happened here in the last couple of weeks, including the kind of the rolling of his committee and his overall take on what's happening with the budget and everything else in the Senate. And then what he thinks is going to be coming out of the remainder of this session. We are officially, 9 days away? 10 days away? 9 days? 9 days. 18th is the final day of the session on Wednesday. So we'll see if they get it done or if they have to extend out another 10 days, which they have the ability to do. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how this goes. Roger Holland, anyway, will come on board. We haven't spoken to him in quite a while. In fact, I only think we've ever spoken to Roger Holland one other time. So this will be a good. This will be a kind of a good little touchstone with him, just to kind of see where things are at and what his overall take is on the budget. I had some interesting conversations on Friday and Saturday with a couple different folks from Juneau. The frustration factor is high for those that would like to get a reasonable budget and a full PFD out. It's not happening, folks. It's not happening. We knew that it was a long shot. I mean, in all fairness, we knew that it was going to be a long shot to try and get a full PFD out of this legislature anyway, with the leadership that we currently have. But it's just the worst. It's just the worst, especially when you got people like they're down there saying, "Oh, we've got plenty of things to do, and we've got all this money, and now we've got $4 billion to play with after that." And that was just straight from Senator Bert Stedman's lips on that one. They're going to pay for all the bills and still have billions of dollars to play with, and yet they can't possibly be bothered to try and get the citizens the money that they need and deserve. It's a sad day for all of us on that. But it's interesting. They want to get out of there and go down there and be reelected, and they want to go down there and run for reelection. So just remember this. Just remember all the names you hear. The thing is, here's the thing, and I guess I should tell you that I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines in this hour because we got some things to talk about, and I want to hear what you have to say. So I will, I'll open up the phone lines right now. In fact, at 433-3150, the Pivotel call-in line. But here's the thing: we have changed out a huge chunk of the legislative body over the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. We've changed out, I think 2/3 of them was the last count that I had. 2/3 of the legislature. And yet we continue to move in the same direction, and that is because the people who have retained power and remain in power are, protected by their constituencies, the folks that keep sending them back. And yes, I'm looking at you, Kodiak, sending back Louise Stutz and Gary Stevens. They're part of the issue. The folks in Sitka continuing to send back Bert Stedman over and over and over again. He's had his hand at the tiller of the Senate Finance Committee for, I think it's going on, 8 years now? 9 years? And we just don't seem to be able to shake them. So as much as we keep going on and on about changing the players, which I think is an important aspect of it, don't get me wrong, but it's like we're almost changing out the wrong players. 39 out of 60 legislators have changed since 2016. So in the last 5-6 years, we've changed out 39 out of 2/3 of them. And yet we've got that handful of people who continue to hold on to the whole business as usual mentality. And it's frustrating. I mean, it is definitely frustrating. And I don't know how we can change that. I don't know how, we've talked about, how the folks in Kodiak, they could make some changes, but I've gotten emails from people who listen and who send emails from Kodiak saying, well, look, I understand, but we really like, Louise, for example, because of her policies on fishing and some of these other things, which are really important to us. And I agree. I see that. But at the same time, it's got to be a holistic approach. You can't just look at their one issue and say, well, that's the issue that I'm on board with. What are they doing to the budget? What are they doing to the rest of the state? What is going on? I wish I had a solution. The solution is to change those players out, but I wish I had a solution as to how to get those constituencies in those areas to see that, to put up a good candidate that could beat some of these incumbents. Because we could change out the 2/3 of the legislature that we've changed out, but if the same people are still in charge, well, there's really nothing more we can do. I understand that there's been a little bit of contention. I'm glad to hear that apparently Click Bishop's district is not real happy with him up in the Fairbanks area. And I'm hoping that means that somebody is going to be able to run for that seat, because if we change out a few of those players up there, then that will be good for us. I understand Grier Hopkins is having a hard time in his House seat as well. So, there's some positives here. But the bottom line is you could change out everybody, and if you've got the same 8 people running everything in the state because they have the institutional knowledge and the political horsepower to get it done, then that you're going to always get what you've always got. That is the very definition of insanity at this point. But I guess that's my mini rant for this morning. I think that every candidate, I think every candidate should face an incumbent. And even if it's my candidate that I support, I believe that every candidate should face an incumbent, because I believe it keeps them sharp and I believe it keeps them on their word. I don't think there should be ever a candidate that doesn't face a challenger at some point, because it keeps them on their toes. And in a lot of these cases, we're just not seeing any viable candidates running up against the powers that be, so to speak. Anyway, that's my hot take this morning on this. So I thought I'd throw that out there. Meanwhile, we got some other headlines we're going to talk about. We'll discuss the Point Lowell thing down in Seward. There's some flooding in Manly Hot Springs. It's springtime, and oof, man, there's lots of things going on, so we could talk about all that. And we'll have the phone lines open as well. Want to see what you guys have to say at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. That is the Pivotel call-in line. Of course, you can always drop me an email. The email address is me@michaeldukeshow.com, me@michaeldukeshow.com. I'm actually opening up my email for the first time this morning. I haven't even looked at it yet. It's been that kind of morning, so we're going to take a look at that. And you can also join us in the chat room, which is available on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, any of those. All right, let's go over to the phones. Let's see what you have to say. We'll start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Mike. Jeff from Homer.
Morning, Jeff.
I want to talk about a little bit different subject this morning.
Okay.
Kenai Borough, I've been meeting with Charlie Pierce and his foresters and his staff for a while now. We've been kind of keeping that on the down low, but Charlie wants me to put this out. So we are going to cut 21,000 acres of borough land in beetle kill. We're going to start on the 17th. They're going to start laying out contracts to get this cut. You can, if you've got a small mill, a big mill, want firewood places to cut, you got a firewood business, you can get in on this. All I have to do is contact the borough. Marcus Miller's the head forester, but that's been put in place of that. And this stuff is coming. All right, so be aware. I am also actively looking for investors for a mill that I want to put together, and eventually we're going to put in a biomass plant and burn most of the bad wood and saw the rest out for lumber. This is what I've been working on. So anybody that wants to contact me, if you want me to, I'll put my number on the line.
Sure, go ahead, sure.
And you can contact me. It's 907-756-3422. My name's Jeffrey. Last name Allen, like the highway, Allen. And eventually you'll be able to find me on the internet. I'm not there yet. We're naming the company. We're going to get things started up.
So this is all
waiting for grants.
So this is all about beetle kill. Is that what you're saying? They're clearing 20,000 acres of beetle kill?
21,000.
Yeah.
1,000 acres going to be turned into farm ground, agriculture. So those agriculture people need to get started on their plans. There will be 1,000 acres that will be stripped, clean, pull off the topsoil, the stumps, everything. We're going to go as far as to have grinders and top grinders and chippers for the mill to chip all of our stuff for the biomass plant. It's going to be a massive operation. The borough's asking for money from the federal government. And in the meantime, there's a bad fire danger all through the town of Kenai. Everybody be careful with your fires and what you're doing. And we're looking for more fire protection. There's some grants that are coming out soon for that stuff from the government. So we're doing everything we can to get this beetle kill away from the road and the public, and block it back into blocks this year and try to get it away from everybody. And anybody that has land that has beetle kill, I know a lot of people. I've located 6 different contractors that want to cut wood, have equipment, and will come take it down for you.
Okay.
And probably at no cost.
And the borough has. Does the borough have plats and maps and things like that of where the areas are so people know what's going on?
There's a meeting on the 17th, and all of the boroughs pretty much going to be there that needs to be. Everybody that has to put this through is going to be there. I met a guy yesterday. What's his name? He's running for Senator B.J. Oderman or something like that. I can't remember now. I've met so many people in the last 2 weeks. It's incredible. But anyways, he's the head of that, and he's totally behind me and Charlie and everybody else. So it's just a matter of getting everything ready, getting these contracts written up. Some places are going to charge for the wood, because we're going to take a lot of it. And other places probably will be, smaller. You can get a little permit for a certain price to cut firewood or wood for yourself or your little sawmill. And I see more and more sawmills, and I see more and more firewood because this winter's not going to be cool the way prices of fuel are.
Right.
So there's help there, and don't think you can't get it. All you got to do is get a hold of Charlie's office, call him, and somebody will direct you in the right direction. It's not completely ready yet, but it's coming, okay? And I can come back on your show and others. There's other places they want me to do this, and announce you can get a permit there today. You can't yet, but it's coming.
Okay.
Right? So just so people are aware, try to wake them up about what we're up to. We want to get rid of that beetle kill. And there's a lot of places. Go right around Kenai and you'll see.
Okay.
It's a bad situation.
One more time I'm up against a break here. One more time on your number, Jeff, so folks can get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about this.
Okay, and you take it to 907-756-3422.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
We welcome everybody and thank them for their help. So let's get this thing going and taken care of before it becomes it's a bad danger now, but it can be worse.
No, absolutely.
I hate to see Kenai burned up. So,
all right. Well, hey, I appreciate it.
We're working hard.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sounding off this morning and bringing that to our attention. Just another service that we provide here on the program, trying to help you all understand what's going on. All right. I'm going to leave the lines open. For the whole of the first hour, Senator Roger Holland is going to join us in hour 2. And we will continue in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay, we're in the break this morning and ready to go. I'll keep my beetle kill. Thank you. I need the firewood and the lumber. Good for you, Jeannie. I mean, I don't think they're not coming onto your property, but I think this is 21,000 acres, obviously, of borough land that needs to be cleared off. So we'll see what's going on. The beetles are dead? No, only half of them. Well, most of them. Sorry. Oh, the other beetles. Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Yeah, hey, I saw that. Got a little dusting of snow up there in Fairbanks this morning. You poor bastards. I mean, yeah. Oh man, what a day, huh? What a day. You when you wake up and you're like, oh, spring is here, and then oh, damn. Damn. What the heck? I know. If there was any snow at my house this morning, I would have been a little upset. But nope. Beautiful weekend, except for this wind. Man, holy cow. The wind is a little crazy, although Brian said he doesn't have any out on the fishhook. But, yeah, down on the Knick-Goose Bay, it was little blowing. All right. All right. Somebody just sent me a message. Kodiak Republicans have endorsed Stutz and Murkowski. Because, of course, they have. Because, I mean, even though Murkowski has been, censured by the Alaska Republican Party as a whole, the Kodiak Republicans are like, no, we like the way things are going. We like the way things are going, so we're just going to do what we're going to do. Oof. All right. I'm going back, taking a look at some stuff here. Okay. All right. We missed the summer and the hunting season, says Gordon. Yeah, I know. The winter's back already. That's just the kind of year we've been having, right? I mean, started to be spring and now, nope, here's the winter. We're going to skip right over it. You got your 2 days of spring and summer, and now you're back into it. My neighbor has a bandsaw mill off North Coho Loop. I think a lot of people will be doing. I agree with Jeff. The price of heating oil and everything else are going to be looking for a lot of that. Lot of that wood and coal and other things to help keep their stuff going as well. Talking about crab and salmon egg rolls today, says Hawk. Man, send me some of those. Crab and salmon egg rolls? I'm down with that. I'll try them. I love that. Yummy. Okay. Hope all the ladies had a nice Mother's Day, said Cindy. I hope my wife did. We had a good time. We did something that was completely, I mean, many people would say useless and inadequate, but my wife and I just sat on the couch and held hands and had a movie marathon this weekend. It was a tremendous amount of fun. I love it. Found some 500-round cases for 22 long rifles. Should have purchased more. Isn't that always the answer? Should have purchased more. Found that ammo and should have purchased. I remember when I complained. This is probably dating me a while ago. This is probably 20 years ago. I remember when I complained to my supplier. I had a kind of a supplier that would supply me with ammo, and I'd buy it, cases at a time. I'd buy 3 or 4 cases, and I remember when I complained when it went from $69 1,000 rounds for Russian 7.62 by 39. It went from $69 1,000 to $81, and I complained to him. And now I am like, I should have bought a tractor trailer load of that stuff. I should have bought a complete Connex full of ammo. I should have taken a loan out and gone out and bought a whole Connex worth of ammo at $81 a case. I would be a multi-gazillionaire now. It's like it appreciated more than gold did at this point. Talk about precious metals. Oof. Oh, why is 4570 ammo so damn expensive? Well, it's an ammo, pretty much everything. It's all supply and demand right now. And not surprising that we're seeing those kind of prices go on everywhere. I think Reno got snow. It's not spring. It is. I mean, it may be one of those. It may be one of those springs that kind of holds on, or winters that holds on as you go through. $599.50 for 1,000 rounds at 3 Bears, says Chris. Of Russian, is that what you're talking about? Because that's just like salt into the wound, Chris. Thanks. I mean, $81 1,000. Should have bought a truckload, an absolute truckload, but did not. And you can't even roll your own at this point, because primers, powders, all that stuff is just as hard to find, it seems like. Okay, what else we got around here? Anything else? Tawny, Sean. But wait, it's not Friday. You're going to get me screwed up. I know. Somebody brought it up, so I talked about it. But we're not on the air, so it's official. I can talk about it, Springtime in Alaska, 42 below. Thank God it's not that. Russian wolf for $600 a case. Oh, God. Oh, it hurts so much, man. It hurts so much. Again, I've shot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of Russian wolf. And if only I had been smart enough to buy the whole case, a whole truckload at this point. Oof. 10 times. I could have made my money back 10 times. I heard Russian vodka was going for $600 a bottle. Well, I don't think it's that good, but, what are you going to do? All right. Well, we are about 20 seconds out. Is that it? 30 seconds out. Let's get back into it. The Michael Duke Show, 20 common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay, Annette Funicello. I don't know, my timer broke at some point. So anyway, we're back. We're back on the radio talking about stuff. What do we got on our plate today? Well, we're going to be talking about what's coming up in the legislature. We're going to be diving into it on what is happening with the budget, which there's going to be a lot of fighting on the floor today. I have a feeling when it's all said and done. Meanwhile, we're going to open up the phone lines for those of you who want to come on board and chat with us this morning on any topic that we've been talking about or anything that we haven't been talking about. Jeff just came in and talked about wood sales and beetle kills on the peninsula. We've also got this story about what's going on down in Seward at Lowell Point. It was definitely not a good day for people who are hanging out down in Lowell Point, south of Seward, as the landslide slumped out across the road. Pretty impressive. They actually caught it on video. If you haven't seen it, the video is over on the ADN. There's a video there, warning language. But anyway, the whole south side of that road is now currently cut off. They're running water taxis back and forth and everything else, but they expect that it's going to be several days before they get that road back open. Something like 300 feet long and 200 or 300 feet deep and wide. And but it is definitely impressive what Mother Nature can do, to our pitiful little plans for driving around on the weekend. Anyway, so you can go check it out there and take a look at it. But as of right now, they're just running some water taxis to make sure that Lowell Point community can remain around and keeping things up. They've already got contractors on it, but they have to stabilize the whole thing first. It's definitely an impressive video, though. If you haven't gone and seen it, you'll be humbled again right there. All right, let's go over to the phones and see what you have to say this morning. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, buenos dias, Michael. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Brady. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just wondered if you had the chance to, over the weekend, watch 2,000 Mules.
I have not watched 2,000 Mules, although many people have recommended it to me. I haven't watched it yet.
Finally, the evidence that we've needed right in video on the stolen election. I think immediately today what we should do is impeach Joe Biden, hang him for treason, and go over to Russia and celebrate National Victory Day when the Russians defeated the Germans in 1945. That's what we should do today.
Okay. Well, I don't know as we should call for hanging anyone at this point, Brady. But I hear people have been talking about the movie and have been pointing out some of the things that some of the points that the movie's been making. I haven't seen it yet, so we'll have to watch it and get a feel for it. It's going to be interesting to see. I know Russia is already evoking more parallels to World War II and everything else, and how they're apparently doing God's works and exterminating all the Nazi Ukrainians or something. I mean, some crazy stuff like that. Again, lots of justification for that kind of stuff, which I don't support at this point. But thank you for calling in and at least sharing your thoughts with it, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to, it's on my watch list. Let's put it that way. All right. 433-3150, 433-3150. If you would like to sound off this morning, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and have your words be heard. $17 million for a low-income housing added to the Senate budget by Lyman Hoffman. He needs to grab a huge handful to pay for his new subdivision. I'm hearing more and more kind of discussions about things like that, where especially in some of the rural communities, it's not the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's like everybody is connected at one point or another, and it seems like more and more this state money is going to benefit people who are some of the ones that are calling and handling the money. This is not the first time that I've heard this about what some of the things that Lyman Hoffman wants to get done. I guess I'm not shocked at that point, but frustrated by it. Sure. Absolutely frustrated by it. All right. Let's continue on here and take some more calls. 433-3150. Over here we go. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Jeremy in Casilla.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Are we live?
Gosh, I hope so. Every time you ask that and every time I say yes, when I say your name, we are live. What's up, Jeremy?
Okay. Well, you know who the biggest winners are of the Ukrainian Russia thing is, don't you? It's Raytheon, Halliburton, Lockheed Martin, and all these people that are getting that $33 billion are these defense contractors. So who's the big breadwinner here?
Well, military-industrial complex has done very well for itself throughout the entire war on terror, not just the Ukrainian war, but you're right. I mean, they are making some bank on this. All defense contractors around the world are making some bank on this.
I guess, since Joe Biden abruptly and dishonorably abandoned Afghanistan, then the MIC needs another bailout, right?
I guess so. They were looking for ways to pad the bottom line. Is that what you're saying? You're thinking this whole thing is some kind of deal to bolster the military and industrial complex?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely what it is. And I bet you could get senators like Rand Paul and Mike Lee and Justin Amash to agree.
Well, I would agree that some of the more libertarian candidates follow my train of thought, which is we probably should avoid as many foreign entanglements as we possibly can. But I guess unfortunately we're not the ones in power. They're not the ones in power, because otherwise I think that would be part of the plan.
So basically, they are taxing our children and children's children to fund the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you sounding off.
State of affairs.
Yeah. No. I mean, we've been warned about the military-industrial complex for the last 60 years, and it's no surprise. I mean, here we are exporting democracy at through the barrel of a gun, and it's no surprise that they're the ones that are continuing to benefit from that. Thank you, Jeremy, for your call. I appreciate it. Let's continue ahead here. 433-3150 over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. This is Carl from Fairbanks.
Hey, Carl, what's up?
Give me one here. I got to switch you over to my phone. So, you know that new ballot that we have all been receiving in the mail?
Sure, sure. The 48 candidate ballot, right?
So I have a friend that's been registered. Him and his wife have been registered in Tennessee since 2020, and she's already received her ballot. So he sent me a picture of it, and I told him I don't know how, but you need to try and find a way to send it to somebody that's going to actually be able to raise the concern to the people in Alaska. Because my problem is I guarantee. I mean, that's probably one of thousands that would be turned in, and be an illegal vote. And I would be willing to bet money on it that they're all going to be counted. So what are we doing about stuff like this? And you could even look at it as the postmark, like if they mailed it from Tennessee. But what if they had somebody in Alaska? They could just mail it, put it in an envelope, mail it up here. And then they could put it in you know what I mean? So there's ways around it.
Oh, no, ballot harvesting is a real thing. I mean, Must Read Alaska last week had a picture of 5 different ballots from one person that had submitted the picture to Suzanne Downing over at Must Read. One of the ballots was for the legitimate resident of that place, but the other 4 were for previous residents. I mean, we're seeing it right now. I know that.
So what are they going to do about this, though?
That's the question. What are they going to do about it? I mean, there's no signature verification. There's nothing else that's going on. It is definitely problematic, to say the least. So,
and anybody with 2 brain cells to rub together knows that this is just going to be a sham.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's just frustrating. I've never thought I'd say this, but I'm almost at the point where I don't even want to vote anymore. And I've never not voted since I was of legal age. It's just frustrating.
Hold on. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I agree. It's frustrating, and the ballot harvesting definitely is a concern. So thank you for your call. Folks, we're up against the break. We got to go right now. We're going to take a quick one. I got one line on hold. Phone lines are open at 433-3150. We're back with more here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right. Sorry about that. A little minor emergency there. We're back. Getting ready to take care of what we got going on here. 2% of the capital budget for the Matsu. It's going to blow your mind. Okay. Send it to Mike Shower. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about sending the ballots to Senator Shower so that he can dump them all to the Division of Elections and basically say, here you go. Here you go. Someone on social media posted that he and his wife received 5 ballots last week, even though they're the only 2 residents currently at the home. The other were previous owners. Someone in Soldana had exactly the same thing. Yeah, no, there's a ton of that going on across the whole thing right now. Every single member of our family has a tape out our envelope shut because the sealant simply wouldn't work. So much for a secure ballot, says David. I heard that too. I heard somebody say that you lick the ballot and it doesn't stay closed. This is, again, another reason why I'm voting on the ballot, which I have on my table in my dining room. I'm going to vote, collect all the ballots in the house, and I'm going to go down there and hand them to an election worker or whatever at the Division of Elections. Okay. All right. Hold on a second here, folks. I have to go back to this here real quick. Don't go anywhere. Okay. All right. You can't vote in person on the replacement ballot. I'm not saying replacement ballot, Hawk. I'm going to go ahead and take my ballots and vote on them and then drop them off. You can do that. You could take them to the Division of Elections instead of putting them back in the mail. I'm not interested in trusting the mail system to get them back to what it's going. Did I hear that the Kodiak Republicans voted to endorse both Stutes and more of the same ski? Yes. Are you allowed to drop off family members' ballots? I'm assuming so, because I'm going to go do that. They're all members of my household. They all have the same address, so I'm assuming that that is the case. That way we can get it done. The Supreme Court judge removed the witness signature in 2020, needs to be arrested and charged. Well, that was a one-time thing, Karen. That's not continuing on. The signature is still there. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. All right. Wow. Okay. Ready to go here? One final segment for this hour before we're joined by Roger Holland, who's going to be joining us at the top of the hour. Talk about what's going on in the state legislature and in the Senate. Let's go over to the phones and see what you guys have to say this morning as we continue on our discussions of things that are happening around the state. We go over here to the phone lines and start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Mike. This is Dan from North Pole.
Hello, Dan. What's on your mind?
So I was just curious if you noticed here a week or so ago, Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff visited Ukraine right around the time that Biden announced he was going to give $33 billion to Ukraine. So me thinks they're over there checking their bank to make sure deposits are being made, because I believe a lot of that money, besides the military-industrial complex, is the political-industrial complex.
Yeah,
it's my 2 cents, but it's awful. The Speaker of the House going to a war zone? Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little leery as to why she would go over there. I mean, other than, I guess, a show of support of some kind. But again, why would you? That doesn't make much sense. He was announcing that they're spending the $33 billion over, but I don't know if when it's going over, if that was the time. But it definitely made me scratch my head as to why would Nancy Pelosi? I mean, would she even remember the trip at this point? The way she's acting, so I don't even know. But yeah, I did hear about that. Thank you, Dan, for your call. Let's go over here and try another one. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, John from Kodiak.
Hey, John, what's on your mind?
So, for all the talk about the military-industrial complex, I just assume have our guys go to war with the very best we can give them. I don't want a fair fight. But on the other side, I would be much more concerned about, and there's no pithy idiom for it, the educational communist platform in America. That's where my concern is. You know, when you come to the defense contractors, I can buy stock in any of those companies and be part of that complex. Can't buy Harvard stock, can't buy Yale stock.
So you're talking about the education industrial complex versus the military industrial complex, basically turning and burning and indoctrinating the kids from the wee young age and moving them up. You're more concerned about that than the military aspects.
Absolutely. Our military is not going to overthrow our own country. And like I said, we own that complex. Your 401k, your retirement fund, all that money owns stock in all of those companies. Nobody owns stock in Yale and Harvard. The liberals control it, and they own it.
I definitely see the differences there for sure. I think that, and they both basically influence the government in similar ways. They're both, trying to further their coffers in the long run, and basically make sure that their funding remains complete. So there are definite similarities there. And you're right, in the cases of a lot of these military contractors, they can be owned by citizens, and where you can't have ownership in the education system. So I definitely see that. But you're right. This is something that I've advocated for a long time, that this is a business. This is a business being propped up and supported by government, being controlled in many ways by government, and then also being controlled by people who don't like the way that America is and don't like the way things continue, for sure.
Love your show.
Appreciate you calling in. One question real quick. We were just talking about Stutz and Murkowski. Have you taken any interest in the things that are going on in Kodiak with Stutz and Stevens and Murkowski and all that? Do you have any hot take for us from Kodiak on that?
Yeah, I've been in Alaska for 2 months. I'm a transplant, so I'm going to abstain from any comments until I get more involved in it.
Well, that's probably a smart thing to do. All right. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Thanks for giving us your thoughts on this. 433-3150, 433-3150. If you would like to sound off here and join us this morning and talk about, any of the things that we've been talking about, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And we'd love to get your take on the things that are going on right now in the legislature. One of the things that came out, again, there's conversations that I had this weekend with some of the folks from Juneau who called me up after the dust had settled over last weekend's battles on the floor, was the interesting thing, and we touched on this last week on the capital budget. We've got a capital budget that's hundreds of millions of dollars. And in fact, if you took the combined capital budget from both the House and the Senate, we're talking about somewhere around $1.4 billion in additional spending with everything that's going on, and upwards of $1 billion in the capital budget. Interestingly enough, though, one of the largest and fastest growing regions in the state, in fact, the fastest growing region of the state, the Mat-Su, got approximately 2% of that money. 2% of that money. And then the Kenai, apparently, it looks like it got 0% of the money. This is just, at some point, you just got to go, man, is this punitive? Who's running this budget? Oh, yeah, Bert Stedman. Who's been fighting back against Stedman in these various ways? Oh, yeah, legislators from the Valley and from the Peninsula. And so they're getting 0 on this. Oh, man, it's crazy, crazy stuff, and frustrating to say the least. All right, let's go over here and take one more call before we hit the bricks here for hour 2. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Carlene in Kodiak.
Good morning, Carlene.
Good morning. On April 9th, I listened to the Jan Markell show. She's olivetreeministries.com or Understanding the Times. She had on Pastor Brandon Holthouse and Pastor Mark Henry. And the clip was that Biden had just signed an executive order on March 9th on the digital money, and they're giving it 210 days. So it's possible that may happen by Christmas time. And there's a plan to regulate the money. It's about going cashless.
Right.
And there was a clip of Glenn Beck on his book, The Great Reset. It used to be called The New World Order, and then President Trump called it the World Order, and now it's called The Great Reset. And I took about 11 pages of notes. I wished I had recorded it, but it's what's going on in Canada, like with the Canadian truckers. with their digital money and what's going on in China. And I'm wondering if this is why there's such a push for the broadband across Alaska and the United States, so that we are going cashless.
Right.
And it might be a good thing for people, like you've talked about, to have enough food, like for 5 or 6 weeks, because it just sounds like the banks will be shut down. And I'm wondering if that's why they are militarizing the police nationwide. And I'm wondering if that's what's happening here, too, with the chain link fence and the electric gate behind the police station, the Matson big van in front of the police station, and the little buildings now.
Right.
Well, I'm just telling this. I didn't know how to verbalize it. I didn't want to see you get shut down. But I think people should realize what's going on. And I'm wondering if the war in the Ukraine is a distraction from the cashless coming.
I think the cashless thing has been coming for quite a while because government doesn't like things that it can't control. Maybe there's some ulterior motives beyond that, but I believe that this has to do more with them trying to control everything than actually, trying to go moneyless. But there's always a concern, Carlene, in that regard. And I think it's always a good idea to have a little bit of stuff on hand just to protect yourself. Anyway, thank you for your call. Folks, out of time, hour 2, dead ahead, The Michael Duke Show. Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad thing to have all of your to have things, to protect yourself, whether it's food or whatever that you need in your larder for situations like what Carlene was talking about. It's never a bad thing at all. Let's see. Going through here, coming back here, scrolling backwards a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I'm actually ambidextrous. Must-Read Alaska did a piece about spending millions of our dollars to bring the 11th Airborne to J-Bear under the auspices of lowering the suicide rates of soldiers. Apparently, they do not currently have no identity. I don't know if that's the problem. I think the problem is deeper than the fact that they just don't have an identity as a unit or as a brigade. Let's see. Just came back from shoveling snow. What did I miss? I throw footballs in my baseballs in the right hand, some in the left hand. Okay. FYI, it hasn't hit the news yet, but we on the District 36 committee censured Click Bishop. Good for you. I had heard that. I made a mention of it earlier that there was something going on back in the home district that was brewing. I had heard this. Apparently, he was not happy about being censured. Let's just put it that way. There was a lot of weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth down in Juneau on Thursday and Friday when this goes through. But good for you guys, David. Yeah, now we just need to have somebody else step up and run against him. That's what we need to have. Okay. Crab and salmon egg rolls still my favorite meal for 42 years, says Michael. Okay. Everyone loves Carlene. Yet the peninsula has buku tourism that pours into the state's budget, says Jeannie. The word we heard, says Kevin McCabe, is they don't think the Valley delegation will vote for the budget anyway, so they're not going to vote for the budget, so we're going to punish them and their constituencies for not voting for the budget. Yeah. Thoughts on Bart LeBon? I don't even know what to say about Bart LeBon at this point, other than, yeah, we definitely need to find somebody to run against him. Although that's a tough district. Remember, he won by only one vote the first time around, so that district is pretty evenly split. I don't know as you could run somebody who was uber conservative in that district and have them win because of that. Let's see, 36. So the federal board of digital currency since Obama. I hope the budget fails. Or bivy stick, larder. Haven't heard that word in a while. Prophecy will be fulfilled. I'm the vice chair of District 31. It was shared with me and then shared with 33 and 34. Okay. One vote, and it was stolen from it was a vote from a felon, said Karen. Okay. The entire forward funding is brain dead in an election year. If they forward fund, it needs to happen same times as they reorganize after the election. Yeah. One of the things that will help the Great Reset will be if conservative voters unwittingly fall into the trap of voting to put free cash handout into the... Randy, you're making me tired, kid. You're making me tired. Kid Rock versus Bruce Springsteen. Who wins? Oh, man. Fairbanks is a university town. Bring home the Bacon District for the UAF campus. That's what LeBon is. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. That is definitely the whole ploy there. If you can bring home the bacon for that, you are doing okay. All right, let's go over here to the phones. I believe that we've got Senator Roger Holland with us this morning. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Man, that was quick.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Just called in just now.
Yep. No, you're doing good. We're just we got you on the horn, and we like to make sure that everybody is all squared away before we jump into it for the radio. So you ready to rock and roll this morning?
Whew, as ready as possible. I tell you, I'm not a finance guy. I'm on 3 finance subcommittees, and we just met like one time this year with a real high level overview. But yeah, we'll go for it.
Okay, good. Well, we're about 2 minutes out right now. It's just you and me and 60 or 70 of our closest friends on the internet right now, hanging out in the time, getting ready to jump into it. So, have you already got your bags packed? Are you ready to leave Juneau already?
Whew, yep. I mean, I tell you, it's still a bit off. It's kind of hard to see it. 10 days away. Actually, what is today? May 9th? Yeah. We'll see what happens. Looking forward to getting done with this. I hate to say the words special session, but I'm just wondering what's going to happen with a lot of this stuff as it comes crashing towards the end. The closer the end gets, everybody says, "Oh, don't worry, golly, magic can happen in the last days." Well, I don't know. I think I see the need for a lot of magic to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean we're getting down to the crunch time, and of course it's still got to go back for reconciliation and everything else. So it'll be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Yeah, I have a couple other bills. I mean, my big bill this year, besides the trying to get something done with the budget, but you're going to see, and I mentioned this on the air, you're going to see that you just look at the final counts on the budget where the votes fall, and it'll let you know how I think the conservatives feel about the budget. But Senate Bill 199 is the Alaska Reads Act, and that's the House once again is torturing that bill. I'd like to see that. That's like real education reform for Alaska, real reading intervention help for our K through 3rd graders. And, that's you lose those kids another year.
Yeah.
You let another cohort move forward.
It's going to be a tough one. All right, hold the line, Roger. We're coming up into it. We got to jump onto the radio here. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live across the world on the interwebs at MichaelDukesShow.com, where you can pick up the podcast, the live stream, and so much more, and around the world around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or translator. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Joining us now in hour 2 of the big radio broadcast, we are joined by GOP State Senator Roger Holland from District N. He comes on board this morning to share with us his experiences over the last couple of weeks and where he thinks that we go from here. And he joins us right now. Good morning, Senator.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. You know, I really appreciate you picking up the comment about the dumpster fire last year. and I'd use it again this year if it wasn't so cliched and accurate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's, and I appreciate your comments. I sit literally 2 feet from Senator von Imhoff, and I hear all those comments. I'm probably the first one by like milliseconds. I'm the first one to hear every one of those comments in the world. And you got to add the next one. The next comment is she stood up next to me and said, "We have more money than we know what to do with."
Yeah, exactly. We have,
and still we're looking. They're going to probably crank out this once again $1,100 permanent fund dividend. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what we wind up with coming out of the legislature this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, she is the soundbite machine. We love to go back and take a look at all those things. All right, let's dive into this, Senator. Of course, we're seeing the budget come together. We're seeing it come out. We heard over the last couple weeks that there's been obviously some strain going on in amongst the majority caucus. You had a bill that you guys had moved out of committee, and then it got referred out to another one of your committees forcefully. This is the Read by 9 bill, SB 111. Is that right? I mean, give us some. How are you feeling about the way things are progressing on the floor and in the committees in the Senate right now?
I was very, we actually getting SB 111. Which is now was renamed the Alaska Reads Act. I was totally fine with that. I didn't do that right off the bat because Alaska Reads Act was the name of a bill in the last session, the 31st session, and I didn't want to steal that title. But I was happy them to rename it this year, the Alaska Reads Act. I was so heartened because this year was the first year a reading intervention reform bill like that got out of Senate Finance. It was the first year we got something out of the Senate. We got it out of the Senate unanimously with a unanimous vote, and we sent it over to the House. And it is so disappointing to see what happened to the House version of it, House Bill 164. It became so weighed down with amendments, it has literally just stopped.
Right.
It just slogged to a halt, and they never got to the end of their amendments. So we sent 111 over, and as far as I know right now, it's still stuck in House Education. We're hoping to get it out of House Education and get it into House Finance, where maybe, they've burdened it down. They have taken the BSA increase and shoved it in it. They've taken the teacher's pension plan and shoved it in it. And the big problem with that is this is a chance to really get reading reform passed in Alaska. And instead of doing that, it's become this big Easter basket, and they're seeing how much they can cram into it. And it's become so heavy that even if it comes out of the House, I don't know that the Senate can concur with it. And even if we do approve it, then the governor, I would feel he'd be totally entitled to veto it, because to pass a defined benefits plan like this, it hasn't been studied. We still have unfunded costs from Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees that haven't retired yet.
Right.
And we're going to get back into a defined benefits program like this. It's a hard thing to think about doing, and we need to do what we can. And what we need to do is address the problems with K through 3 education. And that's what Senate Bill 111 did. At least that's what it's designed to do. We'll have to see what comes out of the House.
Now, is this part of Shelley Hughes's Read by 9 initiative? Is that all
part
and parcel?
That's actually the heart of it. That's like the Read by 9 program is really not an expensive part. The problem is, once again, we have Republicans and Democrats. We need votes from both sides of the House and both sides of both bodies. And whether there are people who say that early learning and pre-K it changes a child's life forever. Higher incomes, less family problems, and then there's also studies that show pre-K and early learning, the benefits are lost by the end of first grade. Well, I believe the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. The thing is, there are individuals in the Senate, and I'm sure in the House, that believe that pre-K is a solution. And so we were able to marry those two ideas up, pre-K and the Read by 9, and also Shelley Hughes had the virtual learning portion of it, and come up with a product that we can push forward with, even though, like I said, the targeted pre-K, that was a bit of a financial ticket. And as a conservative Republican, it's hard for me to talk about spending, so much more money. This would have even been outside the foundation funding formula.
Right.
But it was what I needed to do to get Read by 9 passed this year. Read by 9, we might have gotten that through the Senate, but we could not get Read by 9 alone through the House.
Now, interestingly enough, Read by 9 is not uncharted territory. It's been used by a couple different states, including Florida.
Not just a couple,
Yeah.
20-something different states. Florida did it first, like in 2003. And say Mississippi, just for example, Mississippi did it in 2013. Alabama did it just in 2019. To let you know, there are still states moving to Read by 9. Alaska, we tried to do this in 2014 and it failed. I believe we tried to do it in 2020, and probably more courtesy of COVID than anything else, it failed again. I thought it was a real victory to get it through this year through the Senate. And, when I say it failed in 2014, it failed in Senate Finance. When it failed in 2020, it died in Senate Finance. To get it through Senate Finance and the Senate this year was a big accomplishment. But, states have done it, and since 2003, you look at these numbers, and in 2003, we were still towards the bottom. Alaska was still towards the bottom in, say, fourth grade reading. But we weren't at the bottom.
Right.
And over the next 20 years or so, the other 49 states increased these NEEP scores, this national testing thing, just by a few points. And Alaska, we just dropped by like 2-point-something points. But what that did, as the rest of the states went up and as we went down, that really cemented us firmly 50th out of 50. I believe we're 51st out of 51 if you count the District of Columbia. And what happened in this last 20 years? Well, among other things, the states that were struggling, by and large, adopted Read by 9. And I don't know that causation causes correlation, or correlation is causation, whatever the words are. But doggone it, if that's not the way forward, there are a lot of people here in Alaska who just are not sure what the way forward is beyond that.
Well, and we've poured ever expanding amounts of money into education in this state. We're spending $1.6 billion on education, and we continue to get these poor results. A lot of this is going to, overhead and other things. You mentioned the base student allocation and the foundation formula. I mean, those are things that I think we need to be opening up and talking about, but there just doesn't seem to be the political will to address those issues.
Well, actually, I came on board the first day of this session in 21, and being asked to chair education, and I saw the way forward was trying to get Read by 9 passed. If I am, I tell people this tongue in cheek, if I am unfortunate enough to be here next year, I kind of see that's going to be one of the next things to do is maybe take a look at some portions of the foundation funding formula, see if we can work on it. But honestly, as chair of education, chair of Senate Education, I get to sit in a unique spot in that I can look at, and that's what I've told. I've had superintendents come to my office, school superintendents from Alaska, and various individuals, and I try to tell them the BSA. There's place for discussion on the BSA, but the governor has given us the mandate. We need reading intervention. We need this reading reform. We need a reading reform bill passed before there will be a consideration of a BSA increase. And so that's kind of given me the mandate. And Senate Bill 111 is that reading reform.
Senator Roger Holland is our guest, GOP state senator for District N. Roger, we saw, of course, we saw the attempt on the floor for HB 199, which was the 50-50, then 75-25. I'm sorry, SB 199.
That's right.
Yep, sorry. And that came out on the floor, and there was a whole lot of hullabaloo over that, and it eventually got killed again, sent to another committee. But can you walk us through your thoughts on that as it went through there, and what your thoughts are as you look?
Yeah, SB 199 is a 25-75% of market value thing. So once again, it produces that $1,000 PFD, and I think the reason the $1,000 PFD is so popular amongst Senate Finance is because they realize that's the minimal amount of money we can pay Alaskans where they don't start sharpening their pitchforks and lighting their torches and coming to assault the Capitol building. You know, this $1,100, the $525 permanent fund dividend that was part of last year's budget for a blink of time, that was an insult. And so SB 199 has this 25-75 split, and it has I think an increase of $800 million in revenue. And so last year we didn't have money to pay a big PFD. This year we have more money than we know what to do with, according to Senator von Imhoff when she stood up on the floor of the Senate. And we still are looking at a low PFD and raising taxes. So last year, no money, cut the PFD and raise taxes. This year, more money than we know what to do with, cut the PFD and raise taxes. Do we see a theme here?
Yeah.
But Senate Bill 199 was an insult, and so Senator Myers came up first with the First Amendment, and that would have been to return to the statutory formula this year as a kind of like compensation for all the money that's been $12,000 or $13,000 that's been kept from every Alaskan over the last 6 or 7 years, and then going to the 50-50 compromise, because a lot of legislators, I think a lot of Alaskans see that as a compromise. Okay, well, let's walk to the center on this and try to get more for Alaskans. But so statutory this year, 50-50 compromise every year after that. And of course, we lost that. The vote went down 8-11, and then my amendment was up after that, and I went to, since we couldn't get the statutory this year, I said, okay, let's do the 50-50 this year and 50-50 every year after that. No increased revenue, just like in Rob's, and then also both Rob's and my amendment had a constitutional tie-in, because I tell you, statutory law, we just figured out the state doesn't feel like they need to follow statutory law. And the big fix on this was try to get this 50-50 PFD compromise in the Constitution, where we can't just arbitrarily decide we're going to pay $1,100 no matter what the law says.
Well, a couple of things to unpack there. I mean, first and foremost, this whole thing, even if SB 199 had passed, the whole thing is statutory, so they could say, oh, yeah, this is what we're going to do, and then next year they could decide, no, it's a statute. We don't have to follow it. That's part and parcel of the problem. You're right. We need a constitutional component for that just to be able to protect it. The second thing is on the compromise, it just seems like, the Republicans and conservatives have been willing to take that and bite that bullet and compromise. Unfortunately, you came off of the full statutory PFD. That's where you guys were at. And you said, okay, well, we'll compromise and go to the 50-50. And the liberals and the big government spend folks on the other side said, oh, okay, great, you're willing to compromise. So here's our 75-25. I mean, it's insane. I mean, there is no compromise. It's kind of like our way or the highway.
Right. Last year, the fiscal plan working group that came up in the between the second and third special sessions,
right,
that was part of that plan, was everybody walked to the center. We even had conservative legislators considering revenue bills last year. We had everybody stepping off their soapboxes, walking to the center. And I truly believe this, but for Bert Stedman, we would have had that fiscal plan working group policy accepted last year, because he did this bait and switch, forced that 525 PFD. He wouldn't come off the $1,000, the $1,100 PFD, and that was part of that compromise. Stepping off the statutory formula, coming to the center, trying to grab as many people as we can to pass. I mean, but for Russia invading Ukraine and pushing the price of oil to, stratospheric heights, we would still be in a fiscal crisis today. And we all look for resolution of the turmoil in Ukraine. But along with that will come I see somebody trying to get in my door. Along with that will come, will come a moderation in oil revenue. But it's a hard argument to make that we can continue at $100 barrel oil. We all know it's going to come back to something else.
Absolutely. Roger Holland, our guest. We're going to be back with him in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Excuse me. With Roger Holland. He is our guest here on the program. As we continue, when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the budgets.
I'm back.
And especially some of the capital budgets. You back, Roger?
Yep. Sorry about that.
No, that it happens. It is what it is. As you look over this, and again, being one of the freshest faces in the Senate, what's your overall impression of everything that's going on down there? I mean, you just named names, said part of the problem is, except for Bert Stedman, this whole thing probably would have been fixed. I mean, is that really part of the problem? Is we got some of the old guard in there that retain the positions of power and basically hold all the progress back?
Yeah, I will not make this mistake again next session if I'm back, and that would be, we do not have a conservative on Senate finance. We just don't. And more than a conservative on Senate finance, we need a conservative co-chair on Senate finance. And we joined this Republican majority with promises, with guarantees there would be a straight up and down vote on the permanent fund dividend last year, and it just didn't happen. And what happened at the end of the third special session, I do believe I think reports went out that Bert walked into Louise Stutz's office and asked her to gavel out early, and she gaveled out early. And then the last day of the third special session, we had a chance to vote up or down on the 50-50 compromise. And after a little bit of back and forth, it wound up failing because, I don't know if I can get into it right now, but actually it passed, and then some Democrats asked to reconsider their vote because they realized if that vote was allowed to stay, then there would be a conflict between what the House voted out on and gavelled out on and what the Senate passed, and it would actually revert to the governor's vetoed 0 PFD. So I do believe that it was Bert Stedman who really killed the fiscal plan working group policy last year.
Well, we've seen a lot of things come out of from his committees and under his directions recently, including contingency languages and things like that. Vote for my bill, or we kill the Kinnick Goose Bay Road project. Vote for my bill, or I make a contingent on this and that and the other things. Kind of this whole thing, which is essentially just arm twisting writ large in the public eye. And I personally just find that kind of stuff offensive.
Yeah, and once again, and I'm going to mention on the air when we come back. I don't know how long you're going to have me on for today, but this is not the year of the binding caucus. This is the year of the bought-off caucus. And what he's going to do is, so we have this omnibus budget bill where he's wrapping capital and operations and supplemental into one big old thing that I don't think the House has had a chance to. We'll get a chance to review the capital budget just because of where it's going to happen. But the whole idea is they don't need conservatives to pass this budget, and I think that's going to be reflected in the final vote on it. And if you look at the districts, the way it goes, it's kind of hard to find these numbers, but just when you look at it, all of the Matsu, when you look at the capital budget, I think all of the Matsu, trying to find it, has like 9% of the capital budget, whereas Senator Stedman's district alone looks like it's got 5%. Senator Hoffman's district has 14% of the capital budget. The Kenai, 22%, if I'm looking at this right. These are not easy numbers to get.
Right.
This is not in House Bill 281, the current budget bill. You have to get off into some of the other smaller software packages and find some of these numbers. And so what's going on basically is that you're going to see who thinks that they've had a fair shake in the capital budget. Those are going to be the yays that are going to pass HB 281.
Yeah. Well, the Matsu only got 2% actually of the overall capital budget, according to Kevin McCabe.
And that might be true. Like I said, it's kind of hard looking at this stuff.
Yeah.
What did I say? 9%. I mean, that might be 4, but it looks like 9. But and also it depends on how far you grab. And I think we're looking at Matsu being 3.
Hold on. Before we go, we're going to jump back into this. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Roger Holland, our guest. All right, we're continuing now. Roger Holland, our guest, GOP state senator from District N. We're talking about the budget. We were just talking about the capital budget and some of the problems, overall, what he's seen in the legislature since he got there. You were saying that one of the biggest problems is we don't have a true fiscal conservative that has been serving on Senate Finance, let alone in the chairs of Senate Finance. And you say that's one of the biggest problems you've seen so far this go-round.
Yeah, I mentioned this won't be a mistake I would make next year in the 33rd session. I joined this Senate majority with guarantees, with promises that certain things would happen, and I just don't think they've happened. And what did we give up? We gave up the opportunity of having a conservative as a co-chair of finance, or even, I appreciate the work David Wilson tries to do on Senate Finance, but we just don't really have representation on Senate Finance. And I tell you, I don't know. It's like I said, it won't be a mistake I'd make again. I wouldn't join this majority. There are some senators who agree that I joined this majority wanting to quit this majority because I just didn't see that this was the way forward.
We're talking a bit about some of the actions on this, and we've talked about it before, some of the contingency language that Stedman and the committee have worked out in the past, including the, vote for my bill or we kill the KGB road project and other things. And this year, he's taking a new maneuver and a new tact, and that is wrapping everything up into one omnibus bill, meaning that a senator or who supported, say, the supplemental bill or supported the capital bill but didn't support the operating budget, the bottom line is you have to vote for everything. It's all or nothing. There is no discussion. There is no there are no shades of gray in this. It's all or nothing.
And you are right on the money with that comment, because a legislator can say, well, I support the operating budget, but I don't support the capital. Or I support the capital, I don't support the operating. And under a binding caucus, which we had prior to this session, I think they're still doing the binding caucus in the House, but in a Senate binding caucus, Senate Finance, there's like 4 or 5 people in the Senate that build the budget, and everybody else has to say yes. Well, it's when you don't have the binding caucus, and the binding caucus is a guaranteed yes on the operating budget, guaranteed yes on capital, guaranteed yes on supplemental. So we could vote yes on the capital and no on the operating, but what Senate Finance has done is wrapped it all up in this gigantic ball. And if you want the capital budget, you have to vote for the operating budget. So, and I'm telling people, this is not a binding caucus. This is the bought-off caucus. And you start looking at where the capital money is going. And I think you had mentioned that Representative McCabe had reported that he saw the Valley with like 19% of the state's population, they get 2%. With 19% of the state's population and crazy growth going on in the Matsu area, and they get 2% of the capital budget. My numbers were a little different than that. I was looking at it. It looked like it was something over 8%, but still, when you look at Bert Stedman's district alone, districts 35 and 36, that looks like that right there is $60 million, 5% of the capital budget. There's the numbers don't play out, and it's you're going to see who feels like they're getting a fair shake in the capital budget. You're going to see those are going to be the votes in the Senate that are going to pass the budget.
Well, and as you say that, I mean, we hear about Lyman Hoffman's, wanting to get money for housing out there, and yet he has some kind of stake. His family has some kind of stake in it. We know that part of this is the road in Sitka that goes to Catalin, and we know that that Bert Stedman owns property out there. I mean, it's kind of like who's feathering whose nest and who's not bringing. I mean, why aren't these things being discussed, more openly? Why isn't there being some kind of investigation on it?
I tell you honestly, I mentioned House Bill 281, which is the omnibus budget in front of us. The numbers that we're discussing aren't really in there. You have to get out of HB 281. You have to go into other softwares to find these numbers, and it's just time is of the essence right now. This was flashed before us, I think, last Thursday, and here it is 9 a.m. this morning. We're going to be up there. We're going to be on the floor of the Senate having a vote on this thing. And the other part of it is this is apparently just the way it's done here in Alaska, and this is the most disappointing part of this for me.
Well, this is the way it's done when you have a dictator essentially with a stranglehold on the Finance Committee doing what he wants to do. I mean, we've had Senator Machicki on this program telling me that the Senate Finance Committee is going to exercise the will of the majority caucus. And, I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but are you kidding me? This is the will of the Senate majority? This is what you folks have wanted? This is the things that you guys have been wanting to put through? It's ridiculous.
To see if it's the will of the Senate majority, look to see the votes that pass this budget. And that's my problem. I choose to be a part of the Senate majority. Why? Because I chair education and I chair judiciary. I think I can do good work. We did Senate Bill 111, a committee of Senate Education Committee bill. This year, I think we did a lot of good work on some reform law bills for the governor. But with that benefit comes a cost. I give whatever street cred I might have as a senator to the Senate majority. And what does that allow them to do? That allows them to build these crappy budgets and then cross the aisle to get the votes they need to pass it. They don't, with a binding caucus, they aren't guaranteed to get my vote. And just like last year, I can vote no on this year's budget, and they will cross the aisle to get the votes they need to pass this crappy budget.
So what's the solution in your mind as you look at this? You just said if you return, you're not going to be joining a caucus again under these kind of auspices. But, I mean, what is the answer? Is the answer in your mind a binding caucus, or is it just we have to replace some of the people that are – I mean, basically we keep putting the bad actors back in charge of everything.
And that's actually what it comes down to. As a state, we just have to decide: are we going to send more liberals or more conservatives to the legislature? Are we going to, you look even in we consistently send Republican majorities to the House and the Senate, but in the House there's a conventional battle between Democrats and Republicans, basically. And I get that. In the Senate, I have better working relationships with some Democrats than I do with some Republicans. And that's because the split inside the Republican Party in the Senate is so great that the less conservative senators, I'll be generous there, the non-conservative senators cross the aisle and pass these terrible budgets with the benefit of the Democrats, where in my mind we should just why is this Republican majority Why are we allowing that? Why don't, like I said, I joined this majority wanting to quit this majority. If Democrats and Republicans together are going to pass these terrible budgets, then they should be in the majority. And it's that would make it easier to identify where the problems are.
Right.
And as a part of this Republican majority, I am part of the problem. And like I said, if I choose not to be in the majority, then I don't get the Alaska Reads Act done.
Right.
So yeah, it's a tough balancing act, and I hate to say it, but as a state, we just have to decide, if are we going to send more conservatives or more liberals to the legislature?
Well, and it's really not even a conservative and liberal divide now. Now the divide seems to be, in my opinion, between the pro-government spend and the pro-private sector spend. It seems,
and that's still conservative. Yeah. Conservatives tend to believe in smaller government. The bigger the individual, the smaller the government, and the liberals tend to believe in, there's a government program to fix every problem. So I still get that, but I can see your side too.
Well, and I think that's the thing. I mean, we keep looking at these people with the elephant or the donkey on their lapel. We keep looking at their party label, not realizing that some of the people that we keep sending back there, the party label really doesn't matter to them. It is the pro-government versus the pro-private sector side at every turn. And this is how they've basically, inveigled us on this whole thing, is, taking and remaining in their positions, still saying, well, I'm a Republican, but I'm going to do all these things and basically protect the government spend. I mean, we've changed out since 2016. We've changed out 2/3 of the legislature, and yet we're still having the same problems. And that leaves me to believe that the remainder is the problem at this point.
And I tell you, if I'm here next year, if I'm not here next year, I will still offer my advice to the conservatives that show up next year. And like I said, this is a mistake I made this year. I would not join this Senate majority again. We were given promises, we were given guarantees. We were told last year we'd have a straight up or down vote on the permanent fund dividend. That didn't happen. I would not join the Senate majority again, and that's what I would encourage next year. It's a hard thing to do, to say, we don't want to try to get done what we can get done by being in the majority. If this state's going to pass or fail, it's a tough battle to make. But like I said, I wouldn't join this Senate majority again next year.
Well, that's the problem. It's a compromise to say, well, I'll join the majority even though I know these people don't want to work with me or do the things that we want to do, simply so we can try and get some of these other things done, and yet nothing else. All these bills, the Read by 9, the judiciary bill, or the election integrity bill, all these other bills that you'd hoped that by joining the majority you'd have some traction to be able to pull these in. None of these things came about, and it gave legitimacy to these people who want to continue to grow big government at every turn. Yep.
You got it. You're right on there.
Roger Holland is our guest, GOP State Senator for District 9. Can you continue with us to the top of the hour, Roger? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right. We're going to hold on here. We're going to keep talking with Roger Holland. The Michael Duke Show continues. We got more coming up. I don't know what we're going to talk about next, but I think we're going to dive back down into maybe what he sees as a potential solution. Obviously, not joining the caucus is going to bring its own perils. What does that mean for the upcoming session? If that's the case, we'll see what he has to say on that. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes on Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now with Roger Holland, who's our guest, going to be with us to the top of the hour, and we'll continue on our discussions there. Keep naming names, says Jennifer. Don't let these people hide any longer. And that's part of the other thing that they depend on. Quite honestly, the politicians who remain in power and who hold on to these positions of authority, they depend on that whole, well, we can't name our colleagues, we can't do anything. But at the same time, we saw what happened last year when Mike Showers was punished for his free speech. for his speech when he wasn't even really calling anybody out, but we still saw that. So it's good for thee, but not for me kind of thing is running rampant here. And I agree with the caller, with the listener, that we need to name names. We need to say, this is the person that is the stumbling block to fixing the problem that we're having here in regards to the budget, the PFD, whatever it is that we're working on. We need to mention those folks because otherwise people just don't know because they're not plugged in enough and paying attention.
Well, I tell you, it's I pick on Bert Stedman a lot because honestly, I do believe that he was the individual responsible for killing the fiscal plan working group last year. And he's called me a foreigner that is here to raid the Treasury. I'll never be as good as Bert because I wasn't born in Alaska. I choose to live here. And, it's like, there are these I don't know, there's these kind of problems. But what I would like to make the argument probably next time, a little bit of discussion when we're back on the air, is the argument needs to be made for more representation on Senate finance by conservatives, and not just a member seat, but a co-chair seat. And then the other thing I'd like to talk about a little bit when we get back is the permanent fund.
Yeah.
And how the permanent fund has grown every year. I mean, yeah, we had 3 years of stagnation pretty much. It was $65 billion or so for 3 years straight. And then we increased our net take home after we paid our bills in just last year was about $16 or $17 billion. This year it's going to increase again by $4 billion. So you look at the last 5 years, the permanent fund has increased by about $4 billion every year when you average it out. It was never designed to grow that fast. And the reason it's growing fast is we aren't paying out dividends and we aren't honoring our obligations.
Right. That's the key. If you're looking for the key to growth, it wasn't that Angela Rodell was such a wizard. It was the fact that you keep leaving all that money in the accounts, billions of dollars in the accounts, instead of paying out the dividend.
And I don't have anything against Ms. Rodell. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but the idea that I think most of our thrift savings plans, our individual retirement plans, probably outperformed the permanent fund dividend, but for keeping mass amounts of cash in the fund by not paying our obligations.
Right. Right.
So I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that when we come back.
Well, not only did Natasha say we got more money than we know what to do with, I know Bert Stedman at one point said we've paid all these bills and yet we've got $4-something billion to play with.
Yeah.
And that is indicative to me of this idea that somehow they know better than you how to spend your money. That's really the bottom line. This is the politician's disease writ large.
Yeah, I've been when I still believe that if we could get enough votes in the legislature, I'm opening up my computer here so I can get my calculator up. You take $10 billion or $10 billion and you divide it by 700,000 Alaskans, and you get $14,000. That's kind of pretty much what we've kept out of the hands of Alaskans ever since we stopped paying the full PFDs. And that would not be a bad way to spend $10 billion. The Permanent Fund Corporation said the permanent fund would not hit $80 billion until 2028. We crossed that line. We're at $81 billion today, 6 years early. How is that?
Right.
We're keeping money in that fund that should have been paid out.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned Natasha again. I mean, some of the members of this committee, like you said, I don't think there's a single, we need a fiscal conservative in the chair. At least if they had one fiscal conservative and one pro-government spend and one pro-private sector spend in the chairs, at least they could duke it out a little bit and have some balance in there. But right now it's just completely overbalanced.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Roger Holland is our guest. We're about 60 seconds from returning to the radio, and we will jump into that. We'll talk about the PFD. We'll talk about, what was the other thing you want to talk about, Roger, again?
I think you hit it, the fair representation on Senate finance, but also the permanent fund.
Yeah.
And the permanent fund was not designed to grow at $4 billion a year.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll revisit this and start it from scratch, and we'll see what you have to say. Folks, do me a favor, like and share this video. like and follow the show page, if you will, as well. If you're out on YouTube, I know there's a few people commenting on YouTube this morning. Please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and then share the show out there as well. We're going to continue. It is the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do it. All right, we are back. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Roger Holland is our guest. We are continuing our discussions with him this morning. We're going to specifically be talking about the Finance Committee makeup and the PFD. Roger, first and foremost, we were just talking about the makeup of the Finance Committee and how you're saying we need a fiscal conservative, not just as a member, but as one of the co-chairs. And I said that would make it at least more equitable, because if you had a pro-government spend in one chair and a pro-private sector spend in the other, at least there'd be some equitability in that.
Yeah, it's. I mentioned I wouldn't join the Senate majority again because that was the argument we were making. We wanted a co-chair, a conservative co-chair in this 32nd legislative session, and we just couldn't get it. And that was a compromise we made. We decided we would accept the guarantee of like up and down votes on the permanent fund dividend and whatnot. But that would be the argument that I would carry into the 33rd session, is not just, we would need a conservative co-chair of Senate Finance to move forward.
Right.
We had talked about a couple of other things, and first of all, thanks for having me on the air this morning. But I also want to talk a little bit about the permanent fund and the whole idea behind paying the statutory formula or the 50-50 compromise. It really amazes me to hear people talk about, we're overdrawing the permanent fund. The permanent fund, the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation, in 2019, they projected that the permanent fund would not hit $80 billion until 2028.
Right.
So here we are today. We sit at $81 billion, where we've hit the $80 billion target more than 6 years early. How does that happen? That happens because we don't pay our obligations as a state. The permanent fund was never designed to grow like it has grown. We had 3 years of kind of flat growth from 20, maybe 18, 19, and 20. And then we had this one big bumper year last year where even after our state budgets were paid and whatever, we still put 16 or 17 billion with a B in the bank. And then this year, once again, I think you had mentioned, Senator Stedman talked about we're going to have a little over $4 billion, once again, the bankroll. The permanent fund was never designed to grow at $4 billion a year. And why is it doing that? And which is done. It's grown by, like, when you average it out for the last 5 years, it has increased by about $4 billion each year. And how is that? We are growing the permanent fund on the backs of Alaskan families. There are four groups that haven't really seen any financial disruption in the last pandemic 2 years or so. And that's military families, military employees, federal, state, and municipal employees. Who has borne the economic brunt of the pandemic shutdown? The private sector.
Right.
And so while we've had just the worst 2 years on record for the private sector here in Alaska and in the United States, what could we have done in Alaska differently? Well, doggone it, we could have paid our permanent fund dividend as mandated by law, or at least just a 50-50 compromise. But we're choosing to not pay those extra dollars out to Alaskans in order to grow the permanent fund at levels never seen before. And the big target, I think, is to get the permanent fund across this $100 billion mark, $110, $120 billion, where it will alone throw off enough money to pay for all the needs of government. And this is after they've chased out probably 200,000 or 300,000 Alaskans have been chased out of Alaska because it's no longer an economic benefit to live here. and you're just going to get down where you're going to have just like state, federal, municipal employees, military, and maybe a small private economy to serve them, and Alaska would be a gigantic federal park.
Well, and I think that was the point I was just going to make, that looks like the ultimate end game. The ultimate end game is that they want to continue to bulk up the permanent fund itself until it gets to that point to where it's that self-sustaining and can spin off that much money, and then they don't have to justify themselves to anybody on the money that they spend. The money's there. Look, it's free money. We're going to do it. Now, it tanks and damages the private sector, but that's not the sector that they care about. They care about the government spend.
And that's part of the problem where when, so we don't pay income tax in Alaska. And the only link that the private sector, that regular Alaskans have to the permanent fund is the dividend.
Right.
And one thing to do, what have they done? They have consistently cut the dividend, and they will never be able to cut it enough. Once we've cut it to this $1,100, maybe the $2,575 has been passed by enough, and we've accepted that, then that's going to get cut, and it's going to get cut. And sooner or later, there's going to be no dividend. And what's going to happen? Government's still going to grow, and you're going to wind up suddenly the principle of the permanent fund, the corpus, is no longer worthy of being protected because we'll have chased so many people out. Taxes won't be able to make up the difference.
Right.
And once you start eating into the corpus, then in many people's minds, the way to save the permanent fund is to save the permanent fund dividend. That is the investment that Alaskans have in monitoring what happens in state government.
It's currently the only connection, as you pointed out, to their state government. Since there are no taxes, it's the only way that we feel the bite when government overspends. And unfortunately, it hasn't been enough thus far to make it happen, which leads to the question of this is what Jay Hammond talked about originally when he argued against zeroing out. He argued for zeroing out the income tax, but leaving it on the books because he said it's the only way to govern the spending of the legislature, because when people get involved and they get hacked off because you're taking all their money and hitting them with these taxes, then they will get motivated to move forward.
And I appreciate you mentioning Governor Hammond. I was just thinking that, Governor Hammond, in his book, I got it somewhere here up on my desk. He talks about the reason behind the permanent fund dividend is he wants the collective greed, said in the best way possible. He wanted the collective greed of Alaskans in general to ride herd on the selective greed of small interest groups to control the permanent fund. He wanted that collective interest of the Alaskan population in monitoring what happened to the permanent fund to keep it from being controlled by small groups that just wanted to do what they wanted with the permanent fund.
Right.
But the collective greed versus a selective greed.
Roger Holland is our guest. Roger, we're down to the last 3 minutes here or so. So what do you think happens at the end of this session, and what is the solution for the upcoming session?
Well, I tell you, like I said, the solution is whether I'm here or not, I'm going to be whispering in the ears of whatever conservatives care to listen that there are some things that just aren't worth it. And this compromise that I think I and many others made for the Senate majority, in retrospect, it's hard to look at it and see that it was worth it. I think many of us did good work here, but there's still obstacles. And it's I have concerns on whether we're going to wrap this up by May 18th, and are we not looking at some sort of another special session beyond this? But I hate to say that dirty word, special session. But I do hope that we can get my idea for me at least. The big win is get the Alaska Reads Act through this year. I've heard people making an argument for the BSA and the higher education fund and all those things. There's a backup plan for it. There's an idea of a future funding for it. But if we don't get something like the Alaska Reads Act passed this year and this reading reform, once again, we're pushing back on trying to fix just a basic problem in Alaska. We are having a hard time educating our kids, and that's my highest priority here is to try to get Senate Bill 111 passed and trying to address some of the problems we see with K through 3 reading.
I think your comments on the floor, and you mentioned them, you kind of paraphrased them earlier, I think are still prescient and still important. I mean, it seems like when we were in a fiscal crisis, the answer was taxes and cut the dividend, and yet here we are with a $4 billion surplus coming up with everything and all the bells and whistles and every pet project being funded, and we still have $4 billion, and the answer is still cutting the dividend and raising taxes. And that just shows you a little bit of insight into what this group of folks wants.
Yeah, that's a recurrent theme. That's what we always come back to. And Michael, I thank you for having me on the show this morning. I appreciate it. It's going to be a hard-fought battle for the next 8 or 9 days or so, and we'll just have to see how it comes out. Do me a favor, call your legislator, tell them what you think.
Absolutely. Roger Holland, our guest. Thank you so much, Roger, for coming on board and being part of it today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right, folks, that pretty much does it for today. We're going to wrap things up and head out tomorrow on the program. We're going to be joined by Brad Keithley and Chris Story. We're going to talk about more of this. We're going to get down into the actual numbers on the budgets, especially some of those capital budgets and some of the other stuff that's going on. It's going to be pretty crazy stuff. We appreciate you guys being part of it. Thanks for coming in and joining us. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Don't forget you can always join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. If you want to come in and get notifications and see some of the stories we're talking about. Don't forget you can also help support us on the Common Sense Corps. That is our private Cool Kids Club, where you can help support the show and be part of it, get access to our private Facebook group, and more. We're out of time for today, my friends. We hope you have a good one. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great Monday. It's going to be a good Monday. That's it right there. It's going to be a good Monday. Be kind, love one another, and live well.
put that thing.
Welcome.